All right, guys, we've got head coach Nate Dreiling with us. We'll let coach make an opening comment, and then you guys can ask questions.
No, gearing up for the Hawaii game. They do a good job, man. I played in the last couple years at my previous school. Hawaii's going to play very hard. They're going to be physical, and they're going to be very sound both offensively and defensively. So we got to make sure we use this time to continue to get better at ourselves, and no more ranked opponents on our schedule. Right, it's all teams that we can beat as long as we handle everything from within. So gearing up for a big practice tomorrow and hopefully get it done on Saturday. Let's go with some questions.
Nate, this is Jason Walker with Cash Relay Daily. Any updates on Razul Faison? I couldn't go much in the last game. Is he going to be able to return this year?
I would, yeah, for sure. He should be good to go this weekend. He was probable last weekend, but the flights just didn't help. The swelling in his knee was a little bit too much. He couldn't push off of it. So it's just a kind of a minor injury, but if he's not 100%, it just doesn't look right. Then you have Herschel to back him up, which we feel confident in. So I'm 100% pretty close to be 100% sure that we'll have him this weekend.
Coach Dreiling, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal. As well as the offensive line has done this year, there have been a couple of games where there's been too many holding penalties. Washington State was one of those. So a two-part question. What do you need to clean up a little bit better to avoid some of those penalties? And what do you need to do maybe in the defensive trenches to get a couple more of those holding goals for you?
Yeah, it's hard when you play Pac-12 school with their officiating crew. I think one of their O linemen might have led the team in tackles, but they only call them on the Aggies is what it is. You know, the one thing about it, Jason, I think that's a good question. We need to understand this. If we're going to play a tempo type offense and style, you're just going to have more penalties because your O-line is getting tired. So it's kind of the double-edged sword. You know, defense is getting tired. We got a chance to maybe create some explosive plays, which typically wouldn't be. But there are just going to be some of those lingering stuff like that, just because your O-line's big, not subbing, and they're going fast. So it's just something you have to live with if you choose to play this style of offense, I guess.
Nate, Trentwood with the Deseret News, and yes, I'm awake today. You obviously, you have a lot of guys who are hurt on the defensive line. So you've had a lot of young guys playing, guys like Isaiah Bruce, especially, have stepped into bigger roles. I'm curious what kind of growth you've seen from those young players on the defensive front.
Man, that's a good question, Trent. Gabe Iniguez has kind of been the one I guess I'll just call it founding father that we have still playing on the D line. Other than that, Bruce was kind of in that 5 to 6 spot as far as the depth chart after fall camp. And then you have Ricky, who was on scout team a month ago, who was an afterthought kind of for this season. And also Bo Male, who's continually maybe the most improved player on our team, Bo is. But he was right around that 4th and 5th spot. So we have guys that we really weren't expecting maybe to count on as much, but have come in and done an unbelievable job. It goes to show you, like, the transfer portal is not always your best friend. What's always going to work out for you is you continue to work and prepare for when your opportunity come at hand, and then make the most of those opportunities. So I can't be more proud of our D line. How much guys have had to step up and play significant snaps, and they did a good job and did a good job getting after Washington State. We gave up a couple plays, a couple explosive runs, but for the most part, really proud of how those guys are competing.
Coach Dreiling, Eric Franzen, 1069 The
Sorry,
Fan.
go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, sorry. Just with Hawaii on the schedule, there's a number of players on your roster from Hawaii. There certainly is a lot of familial connections, Polynesian connections whenever Hawaii is on the schedule. Just if you wouldn't mind commenting on that, the meaning of this game to a lot of guys on your roster.
I know. Anytime you got two teams doing the Haka pregame, I think that's always special. And it kind of shows the culture of both where you recruit from and what type of players and team that you have. So I know our guys are going to be extra fired up. I know Hawaii obviously is going to continue to play hard. They're just an unbelievable coach team. So it's going to be a fun game. And I know we'll have a lot of friends versus friends going on out there, as well as our Hawaiian players going. So it should be a good matchup, man. It's going to be a fun one for the fans.
Coach Dreiling, I just kind of wanted to ask you a follow-up question to Trent's. It's pretty crazy. William Holmes went from playing no football before this season, and now he's seen a significant amount of snaps. So what have you seen from his progression?
Yeah, man. So Will Holmes is such an unbelievable human being. He's always smiling and continues to work. Kind of the same, you know. He was kind of number 6 or 7 in the depth chart after fall camp, and then you lose your top 4 guys, and all of a sudden people got to step up and play. And so he's been back and forth all year, traveling scout team. But the one consistent with him is he has always gotten better with his fundamentals. Dude's never played football until this season, right? It helps being the most athletic guy on the field, no matter who he's playing against. But he is going to have such a bright future, guys. He's continuing to learn the position. He's playing with great fundamentals. I think Coach Zoo, our outside linebacker coach, has done an unbelievable job with him. So that dude's a true freshman, and he's 6'3", 250, and probably the second fastest guy on our team. So as he continues to figure it out, man, he's got a chance to play football for a very long time.
Nate, this is Jason Walker again. I know we've seen some Hawaii teams that tend to be good on offense, struggle a bit on defense, but this year it seems like their defense is kind of outpacing their offense in a lot of ways. Like, is it just they've stepped up on defense, or have we seen this a lot from Hawaii, in years past?
It's been a little bit since when's the last time Utah State's played Hawaii? It's been a couple of years, right? I think with Coach Chang and how he's built that team, I'll speak on Hawaii the last 2 years. Their defense has always been very physical and very tough. They held us last year when I was at New Mexico State to, I think, 17 points, which might be the season low. They're very sound, like I said, very well coached. And then offensively, they're not putting up the biggest numbers, but people need to realize they're not a tempo offense. They're 107th as far as slowest tempo. So they're not looking for points. They're looking for efficiency, right? And so what they do is they slow the game down. They play good defense, and they try to win the game late with their offense and their quarterback play. And the quarterback's been in the system for 3 years now. So they got a good model, man. There's a reason they're at 4 wins already. I think 4 and 5 on the season, and competing in every single game, and very easily could have beat UNLV last week because they're playing complementary sound football. So I can't be more impressed with what he's done with that program in the short amount of time.
Nate, I got another one for you. You guys have had some success on the recruiting trail the last couple of weeks. I know you've landed quite a few commitments, especially in-state guys, but just in general, you've been having some good success recruiting. I'm curious because I know before the season you talked about an emphasis on recruiting the state of Utah, the high school ranks. Curious what kind of reception this staff has gotten from high schools in the state when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, Trent. So the one thing with us, and then I'll just talk about me in particular. So my dad was like my head high school coach. I think most of you guys know that. So all of our relationships, especially in my life, are always going through high school coaches, not just for recruiting, just to get to know them, because that's the people who I grew up with and was around. My whole childhood was high school coaches from all over the state of Kansas. So having outreach to them and letting them know, guys, like I got here in January. You guys have seen more Utah State games than I have. This is not my office. This is your office. And just really giving not only that message, but following through with that and having them come to practice and going to see their games and all that stuff. So we've been very upfront on how we want to do this thing and how we want to build Utah State. And I think the area coaches and the Utah coaches are loving it, right? And they're finally convincing their players to send them up here north an hour and a half instead of traveling, to the West Coast or the East Coast to go play Power 5 football. You can get out of Salt Lake and you can be far enough away from home where you're in a college town, but still close enough where mom's going to come up and still do your laundry. So it's a perfect spot for a lot of kids. And I hopefully, moving forward, we can keep that model here because there's so many good players in Utah. And a lot of people fall through the cracks with the transfer portal.
Hey, this is Jason Walker again. Want to ask a follow-up on something you said about Hawaii, slowing things down a little bit. Where normally we think about slowing things down, people run the ball, but Hawaii they throw the ball a lot more. Just explain about the uniqueness of an offense that slows it down but still passes a ton.
Yeah, and that goes right back to the image that they want. They're not going to grind it out running the ball. They will run the ball. They just want to take some time off the clock, try to move the ball, get a couple first downs, see if they can move some points. but still getting their defense the rest that they need. And when Hawaii's fresh on defense, I think they're, leading the Mountain West in almost every defensive category, because they're fresh. They play a lot of guys. They got good depth. And then the offense is not an afterthought, I wouldn't say, but really plays good football for how well their defense is, right? But they're going to try to throw the ball all over the place, and they'll run it when you give them numbers. But I love, like I said, how Timmy has built that thing and the plan in place. I think he's got a chance to be really successful there.
Hey, Coach Patrick Mayhorn from the Ag Ship. When you have top end receivers like Hawaii has, Ash Locke, Cynical, there's a couple other ones. How important is it that you kind of change the picture for the quarterback up front and make sure that your guys don't have to deal with those receivers one-on-one for any longer than they would necessarily need to?
Yeah, Patrick, with that, I think it's being able to get the quarterback to hold the ball maybe for another count. They've given up 33 or 35 sacks, something like that on the season. But if we can continually change those windows where the quarterback just isn't always throwing on time, because if he sees man, he's going to throw his man beater. If he sees zone, he's going to throw the zone beater. If we can get him just to be unsure and get him off rhythm, I think that's when you have a chance to be successful. But one thing out of that Washington State game, not the outcome we wanted, obviously, but really impressed with how our corners played. Avante had probably his best game. DJ Graham is having a ball go through his hands on a pick six away from playing the best game he's had, as well as JD Drew. So all three of those guys had an unbelievable job playing the Washington State receivers, who I thought is a very solid receiving core. But we have to be able to carry that over, and we got to have another good week of guarding and hopefully getting this quarterback uncomfortable in the pocket.
Hey, Coach Eric Franson again. Speaking of quarterbacks and wide receivers, how do you feel like your offense is evolving with life after Jalen Royals?
Yeah. Life after Jalen Royals. So it's kind of been the motto this year is next man up mentality, right? Whether it's on the D line, like we talked about earlier, or in that wide receiver room. You have Grant Page getting 7 catches a game, like he did last week. A guy that really didn't play much out of the gate, as well as Otto and now Kyrie's and then Jack. It's just the ball's getting I think facilitated all over the place. So it's going to be hard for defenses just to key in on one target when it's just a pretty evenly grouped all across the board. So there's a lot of consistent play with those guys. And I think Spencer's continue to have a good year, and hopefully can finish strong with these next 3 games.
Nate, this is Jason Walker again. I wanted to ask about Hawaii's quarterback, where you've seen a lot of dual threat quarterbacks, and Shaker's kind of interesting because in like 40 games, he has like 200 yards. Then there's the one game this year he ran for like 120 and 4 touchdowns. Just like, what level of like threat is he as a runner? Where we've seen some of it, but not a ton of it for most of his career.
Yeah, no, he runs just good enough to defensive court. He's not a statue by no means. Is he going to take it 80 yards? No, but very rarely does the first guy tackle him. I kind of compared him to our defense staff with as Diego Pavia, how he moves in the pocket. He evades so much, and he continues to work downfield with his eyes. And when he does take off running, he's a big guy that breaks tackles and he continues to fall forward. So he's a heck of a player, man. And anytime you got 3 years experience in the same offense, you're going to only continue to grow and play at a high level. So he's exactly what that offense needs and wants. And, we're going to have our hands full. Maybe not the most mobile guy, but he's definitely fast enough that he can beat you. Anything else?
Nate, Nate, I got one quick question. Just a small one. I think this may be the first game you might have snow on the ground.
Yeah, let's go.
Weather
When's the last time Hawaii's played a snow game, Doug? Can you get that stat real quick? That is what we want. Oh, sorry, Jason. What was your question?
Oh no, that was pretty much just it. Just
Yeah.
put snow on the ground. What that'll be like for you guys.
Yeah, we practiced on last Tuesday and it was snowing outside. So we'll be ready for it. I hope it does. That'd be an awesome atmosphere here in Maverick Stadium. So it's going to be hard for Hawaii to simulate that this week, I would think.